Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got a fantastic entrepreneur for you for today's show. It's RJ Burr. He's president and CEO of Panex Panther Exploration, where today's topic is all about oil production, the oil industry, and he's got a lot of experience. So RJ, welcome.
Chris, how are you doing today?
You come from a long line in the oil business, so talk about your journey and what you do, what your company does.
Well, we are producers of American oil. That's it's all I've ever done. I'm third generation. My kids are now of age. They're starting to work here, so we got fourth generation oil people here. And some kids grow up watching their dads practice law. Some watch them practicing medicine. I watched my dad in oil and gas. He had me out on a rig. First time I was 7 years old, and I was hooked. A lot of people spend decades looking for their purpose in life. I was fortunate. I knew what I wanted to do at seven, and graduated high school. Made my first sale, 3 months later, and haven't looked back. This is really all I've ever done.
Yeah, I love that. And so, we'll talk about kind of the state of oil. I think oil is one of those commodities that I never really understood because it's, you got supply demand dynamics, but you also got like OPEC, and then you've got like, other countries, and it's kind of like the US dollar is, tied to the oil. So, kind of talk about the oil industry currently. We've got two wars going on, and we've got inflation, interest rates. Where does your company fit into all of this?
Well, it boils back down to you hear enough people complain all the time, and I was a big Rush Limbaugh fan. Of the two people in my life that really formed me, other than Jesus, is my dad and Rush Limbaugh. When you think about it, it is very easy to be negative and complain about things, and it's very hard to be positive. I mean, it takes a true man to be positive every day. If you don't acknowledge the negative and identify it, you're never going to fix it.
Uh-huh.
And looking at it, my biggest negative is education. Most people have no clue as to the role oil plays in their life. They have no idea. And when you look at all the inflation going on right now, there's not a statistical pencil to this. I mean, I can't break it down and say, hey, this guy ran this number. But you look at the inflation we're facing right now, a large percentage of it is energy. And most people don't realize that, whether it's transportation, whether it's the actual product. There's 6,000 products made from 1 barrel of oil, from all your plastics to medicine to, I mean, makeup, cosmetics, just the little doily thing on the end of your shoestring. That's oil.
Yeah.
If it says poly, it's oil. And so most people don't realize that you could randomly grab one person from any city in the country,
Uh-huh.
and I'd be willing to bet they'll have two or three things made out of oil on them, and most likely won't even know it. It's just something that most people don't realize. Prime example, average person. Hey, explain the American oil industry to me. Most of them would go straight to Exxon. Most of them would go straight to Shell. Most of them would go straight to your large major oil company. Now, Shell's not an American company. That's where your mind would go to, is your large conglomerates. When the fact of the matter is, 83% of the oil produced, 90% of the natural gas produced, and more than 90% of the wells drilled domestically are drilled by roughly 9,000 independent oil and gas companies that average 12 employees or less. That's the American oil industry. And so you have a disconnect from the actual reality of the oil patch and the imagination of the American people, that it's a large gap that most people just don't realize. I hate to put it this way, but environmentalists have spent the last 60 years trying to convince the world that the one product that has brought more people out of poverty than any other product in the history of man is bad.
Mm.
And it's been a constant assault. And it's like, I gave a speech, and I was trying to stress the importance of oil on people's lives, and I'm trying to figure out ways to do it without shocking people.
Yeah.
And so I came up with imagine you had a loved one. Imagine you had someone that was truly dear to your heart, and you knew they were sick, and you knew there was nothing good in down the line for them. However, if they just listened to you for a minute, you could fix everything. yet they refuse to listen. What would you do? How would you get their attention? And that's really what we're facing right now. When you look at what is coming down the road, when you look at, and I'm not going to debate green energy, I refuse to. If your solution to solve the world is we have to destroy it first, you're not a serious person, I won't engage with you, because that's what they want to do. To go to electric cars, we would have to rape the earth like we never have before. And so if that's your solution to fix it, then you're not a serious person. And so they've spent so many years telling us so much that just isn't so, that they're leading the people to a daggone train wreck if people don't realize what's going on and change course. And that's what my job is. I'm that canary in the coal mine. I'm trying to tell everybody, look, it's nothing good coming down the road. If you want to go all electric by 2035, you do realize that you will send us back to the Stone Age. We don't have the energy to cover it. I mean, and when you're decommissioning power plants without having the replacement already built, what do you expect to happen? And so it's just that's really what breaks my heart, is that these are all avoidable. These are all self-inflicted wounds. And so my first step of business is to educate people. But my second step, look, I'm not altruistic. I don't get out here and do all this for fun. I do it to make money. And I make my partners a lot of money by developing American oil. And so when you kind of look at it, while I hate it for everybody, because, I'm everybody. I'm with y'all too. I got to pay the prices just like everybody else. Whether it's for the clothes I wear, the food I eat, the car I drive, I have to pay just like everybody else. And so I hate it just as much as you. However, on the flip side of that, I'm one of the few avenues that I can get that flow of revenue coming the other way and actually make you money while prices are this high. And so that's really what we do. Somebody's going to come and consolidate this oil. I know everybody learned lessons in COVID. Everybody learned things that are going to stick with them the rest of their life. Well, the main thing I learned is that if a country doesn't control its food, medicine, or energy, somebody else does. And you're at their power. Well, right now, we don't control any of them. Now, food, that's not my line. I'm not really sure how to fix the food control problem. Medicine, same thing. You're more suited to deal with the medical side than I am. Energy, on the other hand, that is my bailiwick. I do know what I'm talking about there. And so when you look at all this oil across the country, heck, we want to consolidate it all. We want to put it all in house. I was at CPAC here a couple of years ago, and this kid from PBS comes up to me. He says, "You're the oil guy. Well, how do you want 2024 to turn out?" So it depends on what me you ask. He said, "Huh?" I said, "Well, if you ask the everyday me, I want Trump to win." And the reason being, he understands something most people don't. He understands, being a businessman, that oil prices have to be such the oil company's time to expend the risk and money to go get it. However, it can't be too high that it kills the consumer. He's the one politician that actually understood that. And we said it was pretty much $60 to $70. That was a safe area where everybody can live. I said, so if you ask the everyday me, that's the way I want it to go. However, if you ask the oil guy in me, I want Biden them to win. He goes, "Really? Why?" I said, "Keep scaring people away from it. Keep ESG scoring it. Keep pushing all the money away from oil. And you know what we're going to do while he does that? We're going to keep buying it. Because eventually, it's not if, it's when, the bubble's going to bust. Eventually, they're going to come out from under the ether and realize there is nothing on the market right now that can affordably or economically replace oil. And when that day happens, the people that own the oil are going to be sitting in a position of strength. Yeah. And so keep scaring people away from it. Keep running it off, because oil has been the foundation of the modern world for over 100 years now.
The next question was, America has always had this interesting relationship with Saudi Arabia, and most of wars, they say wars are for terrorism. Wars are fought for oil and land and power and territory. And what do you think about this? The currency and its price, the price of oil is priced in US dollars as opposed to yuan or another foreign currency, and in how countries are trying to get off this dollar reserve and kind of put the US in a kind of they're trying to strategically diversify and not be too dependent on the US and vice versa. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't blame them. I mean, God, when you look at what we've done, would you would you go if you had a choice of any bank on the planet? Would you go to the Bank of the United States right now?
No,
I mean, it is when you look at what they're doing. I mean, and I'm not a cheerleader for anybody. I cheer for the United States. I want the best for us. Then they're actually talking about seizing Russian assets
mhm.
and converting it to U.S. dollars. Well, what do you think the other countries that have U.S. assets are going to do at that point? They're exactly, and so I'm one of those guys. I'm not a conspiracy guy. I'm really not. However, when you look at every decision that's being made, and I guarantee it doesn't matter what political branch you stand on, you can look at these decisions, and for the most part, maybe not all of them, but the vast majority of you going, what? Why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. And name it, whether it be immigration, whether it be energy, whether it be, it doesn't matter. You're going to scratch your head and go, why would they do that? However, if you change one thing and you look at it from the stance of, if I was going to destroy America, now it all makes sense. That's the only point of view that every decision that's being made makes sense. Point of view, it doesn't make sense anymore. And so once again, there's guys that with a more let's just say a more polished academic pedigree than I do that can probably put that a little more eloquently. Right. But the fact of the matter is, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and swims like a duck, it's a duck. And so you once again, you don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. However, at the same time, if you have a cough and you have a fever and your head is clouded and your chest is congested, chances are you got the flu, allergies. You have a pretty good idea when the symptoms are showing you. Well, what are the symptoms showing us? That they're trying to wreck the U.S. for whatever reason, whatever their motivation is. And so you just kind of, you don't want to be. Go ahead.
Like, because I grew up in the 80s, 90s, it was like the most dominant country. That's where all the innovation was. And then I've just seen it like it's gone from the strongest, most technologically, most educated, most advanced society. And it's gone into this like, it's a creditor nation into a debtor nation. People are getting poorer, living standards, healthcare, education, transportation, energy, food, all these things are like going down the drain. And it's like, I don't, like you were saying, I don't understand it, but it's like, somebody is profiting from these, kind of this.
Oh, without a doubt. But without a doubt, I'm a huge student of history. I mean, the American story is literally the greatest story ever told. I mean, if you wrote a script about how our country was formed and took it to Hollywood, they call you crazy. No way this is going to happen. Just because too many things that shouldn't have happened. Well, when you sit down and look at it and you look at American history, just take the last 120 years. From the 1900s through now, it has been a constant push to the left.
Yeah.
It's been constant. And what would happen if there's your starting point and all of a sudden you have Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, all of them moving it to the left, well, then all of a sudden you have, in the 20s, you have a Coolidge come in, or you have somebody come in and they move it back to the right a little bit. They didn't move it back to where we were, but they moved back just a little bit. But then all of a sudden you have FDR and all of them come in, boom, they move it further. Well, then Kennedy comes in and moves it back. Or Eisenhower comes in and moves it back a little.
They assassinated Kennedy for that. So.
And then LBJ comes in, moves, and then Carter, all of a sudden they move to the left more. Well, then Reagan comes back and there's another course correction. However, once again, it doesn't go back to where it was. Now it's here, but it's not there, it's here. And so you follow this through every time. We've progressively gone further and further to the left. And it started, I forget exactly, I think it's the 18th or 19th Amendment to the Constitution. It started with how we elect our senators. The minute they changed how we elected our senators, all of a sudden they made the population centers the most important things in your state. Mitch McConnell doesn't have to win Kentucky. Mitch McConnell has to win Louisville and Lexington. That's why it was so important to him.
Yeah.
New York City, you really think any politician in New York that's a national campaign, you think they care about the rest of New York, or do you think they care about New York City? Well, Chuck Schumer could care less about outside of New York City. He
Yeah.
has to win New York City. And so that, so all of a sudden you look at that. Well, then the left also understood something that the right didn't very quickly. They understood if you control the media, you control the information.
Mm.
You control education, you control the future. You control Hollywood, you control the culture. They snapped to that real quick.
Yeah.
And we've been under a 60-year assault on living standards, you just watch what you see on TV today and then flip back and watch a show from the 80s. Don't even go back to the golden age of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Go back to it's been from sex to drugs to violence to everything. They program our society. And when the television becomes the babysitter, how much control does somebody who presents that your kids are watching every day? And so it's just, we're all computers. We're the most advanced computer on the planet, and we run how we're programmed to run. I'm a big movie buff, and one of my favorite movies is The Usual Suspects. And one of my favorite quotes is the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. Well, when I look at the modern environmentalists and I look at everything, the greatest trick they ever pulled was convincing the world that oil was bad.
Mm.
Because when you look at it,
how
go
can
ask the
people contact you? Like, kind of wrapping it up, how can people find out more about you and the work that you do?
Panex.us/learn.
Yeah.
We put that page together specifically for individuals who've never looked at oil before.
Awesome.
That way it gives you a foundation oil 101. Oil 102 shows you the tax benefits. I mean, it's the best tax benefit out there. Above line deduction, Uncle Sam roughly pays for a third of it. Now, I'm not a CPA. I'm just going to give you a typical rule of thumb. But what we do is we go in and we develop fields. We're not speculating on whether the oil's there. There is no guarantee. If anybody ever calls you and guarantees you something, they're lying to you, especially in oil and gas. All we can do is do all of our work and work as hard as we can. Now, are we good at what we do? Yes. We make our partners significant money. We produce a lot of oil, and we're very good at what we do. Does that mean the next program we run is going to be spectacular? No. Every program stands on its own. But I welcome anybody. Please look in. Educate yourself, whether it's with me or whether it's with somebody else. I truly believe every person who is a person of means that has the finances, you need to have some of your money in oil. Because, I'll put it to you this way. I hit a well last week. This well has 7 different pay sands in it and over 320 feet of total pay. We will produce this well one zone at a time for 7 zones. Each one of these zones will last anywhere from 3 to 5 years. The best zone we have in the well will probably not be produced for another 15 years. What do you think oil prices will be in 15 years?
I have no idea. We'll see. I mean, probably
exactly
$5, maybe more. We'll see.
I'll put it to you. Here's part, and I'll give you this little nugget about oil and gas. Right now, something is happening that we haven't seen happen in my entire life. You have investment in oil, upstream investment to find more oil to replace what we've already produced. It's down roughly 70% over the last 10 years. In 2013, we put right at $1 trillion worldwide to find more oil. Awesome. We'll be lucky to get 300 billion this year. So to find more oil, we're not doing. Well, then you look at demand. Right now, we're consuming 10 to 15 million barrels a day more than we produce. Well, here's the kicker. 83% of the world is just now beginning to use oil. What do you think they're going to choose to do? Do you think they're going to go, oh, man, we're ruining the environment. Let's go back and live in the Stone Age. Let's stop using oil. Or are they going to tell Greta to shut